All right, we're on the air, guys.
Chris, I wanted to apologize. We don't have a quorum tonight, but
Okay.
since you've come out, this is Selectman Lemay, he's a selectman's rep on the EDC, and this is Steve Langley, he's the chair of the
Okay.
EDC. So you're welcome to present. We won't be able to take a formal motion. I didn't think we would, but I
Yeah.
think for informational purposes.
Yeah, I more wanted to kind of, I'm going before everybody that I can to at least kind of let them know what's potentially coming, to try to get any input ahead of, going before zoning board.
We're
and planning
interested.
board one night.
Thank you, sir.
Any particular spot you guys like people?
No, if you want to sit at the table, that's fine.
Okay.
That's perfectly acceptable. Like I said, it's not going to be a meeting, so it'll be pretty informal.
Okay. Well, thank you for the time. Again, my name is Chris Rice. I'm with TF Moran here on behalf of REM Central, who's the developer looking at developing the property. I assume you're all pretty familiar where the site's located. It's right between Mast Road and Knollcrest Road, right adjacent to the Cumberland Farms that's currently under construction. So what's being proposed is a one-story, approximately 2,300 square foot Dunkin' Donuts with a drive-through and associated parking and site improvements, as you can see on this plan. I've gone before, I've had a preliminary meeting with town staff, as well as a preliminary meeting with the TRC earlier this week. That's when I had the pleasure of meeting Derek, and he suggested that it might be a good idea to come before this board just to let you know what's going on. I am scheduled to go before the planning board tomorrow night conceptually to let them know that this is coming and get any initial feedback that I can. And then following that, my intent is to meet with Robbie Gould of the Main Street program.
Robbie Grady.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Grady.
Grady, okay.
Yep.
I left her a message today, I just haven't heard back yet, but I'm going to try to meet with her and try to set up that neighborhood meeting that Brian had recommended to get all the neighbors together to try to flush out any of their concerns and comments that I can hopefully incorporate anything needed into the plan. I will be going before the zoning board, as I mentioned, predominantly for the use, because this is in the RSBO1 district, so I need a variance to allow a restaurant with a fast food use. And or most likely, I'm still looking into it, but I believe I'm going to be requesting variances for signage, because in this particular district, I'm only allowed one sign that's 8 square feet, which is not really what retailers are looking for nowadays. So my intent, or my understanding at this point, is that we'd probably be going in for one building sign and one monument or pylon entrance sign. And if I get to anything as I'm going through here, please let me know. We're, again, very preliminary stages, kind of taking it step by step, but I've gotten town staff's initial comments, which we're kind of going through and addressing, and we're going to kind of just see how tomorrow night's meeting plays out, and then I'll be submitting for the ZBA, hopefully to be before them in December. And then following that, assuming that we got approval, then I would begin the design package to go before the planning board formally. I do have, just for your use, to give you an idea, this is an architectural from the last Dunkin' Donuts that I did with my same client in Auburn, New Hampshire. This would be kind of the intent for what the building be very similar to this at this location. Colors might, tweak a little bit. You might get a lighter shade, but we can discuss that also with the planning board to see, or the neighbors, to see if they have any questions, comments. There's always little modifications you can make, but it's generally a colonial style building, asphalt shingles, vinyl trim siding. I'm sorry, vinyl clapboard trim. The siding, I believe, is kind of a composite. Just look, again, I don't know that it would be exactly the same, but yeah, composite siding. And based on our preliminary meeting with staff, we're still going through, I know that they mentioned some comments, relative to drainage and traffic and a couple other things that we're going to be looking at. We're looking at a pedestrian access off of Knollcrest. We will be looking at the possibility of a cross connection here with Cumberland. I know that the town is, that's desirable for them. So we'll see where that goes. And I don't expect too much to change from this plan. This plan shows 33 parking spaces where technically 36 are required. However, the planning board does have the authority to, there's section of the parking for this particular project, given that it's a fast food, they make you provide parking for the customers, and then also there's a 5-space requirement that the planning board has authority to waive. I don't believe we'll be asking for that waiver. We've modified this plan since this one was put out slightly to just get ourselves a couple extra parking spaces, so I wouldn't need any type of waiver at this point. I think the only waiver we will be discussing with the planning board at this time would be a waiver for the driveway width. I know Brian Rose had mentioned to me a 24-foot width with 10-foot flares. That makes the truck movements difficult for the site, entering and exiting. This particular store, I do have a specific, they've talked to their delivery company, and for this particular location, they would only be using like a FedEx size vehicle for their deliveries. However, I obviously need to get a fire truck around the site, so the fire department's gonna be supplying me with their turning template, and I'm gonna match the site to meet that. Right now, this is designed to handle a WB-50, which is probably bigger than their ladder truck, but I'm gonna verify that with them.
I don't know, that tower ladder we got, it's a pretty good sized truck. It's
Yeah.
43, 45 feet long, and it's a little over 10 feet high. It weighs 80,000 pounds, so.
We could leave it right in the street and service that. but-
Yeah, probably.
Well, I'll check. A WB-50 is a standard
Yeah.
tractor-trailer size vehicle, so that makes it around the site, no problem. So I don't anticipate there'll be any issues with the fire truck. The one thing that I think may change from what's shown in this plan, this plan did show a wider entrance, but I think what's gonna change is you'll have a dedicated in-drive, and you'll also have a left turnout and a right turnout lane. So that's the reason for the wider width as well, is we're gonna provide a right out and a left out. So my total width would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, 42 feet.
So what are the existing conditions now? Are there a couple
Right-
of houses or?
Right now, there's an existing residential home that sits right on the front of the property, and then the topography kind of drops down right about here, and then it's level all in just grassland out the back.
So it's just one house?
Just one house, right?
So
I think that there's a
three-family.
little shed out maybe in this area.
I see.
The guys that are building Cumberland, I know have worked out an agreement with them where they've got like their construction trailer down here, so it's kind of difficult right now to distinguish between what might be construction storage versus
I see.
something that was already pre-existing there, because they've got some piles of masonry stone and things like that they've got
So
piled
that's
up.
all one residential lot right now?
This is right here, this.
I
right
gotcha.
here. Yep. And that's the Cumberland, this is the abutting property. It's a nice piece of property, I think, being down there. Traffic circle is right here.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like a good use.
Now, what other effect, or what effects will this have if this goes into place with the other current Dunkin' Donuts along have you looked into that?
I don't
or-
think that there will be a change.
Okay.
I will confirm, I can confirm
No,
that.
I
maybe
just,
shoot
I
an
just
email back
wondered,
to
I mean,
Derek.
You can put those on every corner in there.
well, exactly, you know, we had one there, and, you know, that'll be very nice, you know, I just didn't know how it would affect the one at the Shell station or the one.
I believe my client owns that one as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't think, just honestly, I don't believe that he had any
Yeah.
plans to close that one. I think that this was a new store
Yep.
for this section of town. So
No, that's fine.
I can try and confirm that, though.
What do they plan to do with the building as far as demo? Are they just gonna,
It's
No idea.
really the
Still-
preliminary stages. I know, for instance, the one in Auburn we just did, we're working with the fire department because they're gonna do a practice controlled burn.
I was gonna make that suggestion. It's a little congested, but if you give it some time, maybe, we can use, the building for training.
Yep.
I know opportunities like that are far and few between, and that would be greatly appreciated to the members of the fire department.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing we're going through with that one is we just had our asbestos test done, so
Yeah.
we've gotten the results, but we're waiting for the actual report, so we know what we have to
Yeah,
remediate.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
before the fire department, I'll go in and.
Yeah, fire marshal comes out, somebody, I think it's Les Cartier or somebody comes out and they do a mediations, they check everything, they check the shingles, the
Right.
floor tiles and everything like that.
boiler, yeah, the-
Any asbestos, yep. Yep. Very good, gonna be a nice improvement,
Mm.
step in the right direction.
I mean, is there any comment? I mean, I know don't have a board here, but I guess the biggest thing is they're gonna need a use variance. Cause the Cumberland Farms is kind of on its own little island of commercial, and then it goes right into the RSBO1 district there. So, I mean, maybe next time when we have the full committee here, we can talk about.
One of the things I would probably be concerned with, and I'm sure it'll be addressed at some point in time maybe, lighting around the neighborhood.
Yes.
With all the new, construction and, you know, new things. Light the facility, not the area, is probably what, you
Right.
know, what I would probably try to drive home, you know. Light the area, not the neighbors across the street.
Right.
We don't wanna get anybody upset, you know.
I'm sure ZBA will
Oh, yeah.
be right on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will,
Planning.
you know, yeah. No.
Yeah, and I can tell you the one in Auburn, I just did similar situation. I had residential right next to me.
Yeah,
So
whereabouts in Auburn was this?
right off exit 2 across from the Miles Travel Plaza.
Okay, yep, familiar with it, right off the highway there.
But the same thing, right, my next door neighbor was a residential abutter, so
Yeah.
the lighting levels are a little bit lower. They go to just security level lightings after hours, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, and obviously, you know, cutoffs and things of that nature.
No,
Yeah, because I know with the Cumberland Farms, they have, Brian and I can get you this information, they have limited hours at that Cumberland Farms. And I know in the past there had been complaints in the previous one about noise early in the morning, which might still be a concern.
and you're probably familiar, just down the road a little ways, remember we just had a complaint about somebody, their sign being lit up
Yep.
longer than,
Yeah.
I mean, people like the additions to the town, but yet the people, I mean, they don't like the lights, they don't like this, they don't like that, you know, they,
People that are directly affected, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, you know, I mean, we're just, I don't know, if we're done dealing with it, or there was an issue down the road with another, business in town, that the lights were left on past a certain amount of time, and they just, they let us know about it, let's, you know,
Right.
so,
I can understand that.
Yeah.
If I was a residence next
Yeah,
to a commercial
yeah.
development, obviously,
Yeah.
those type of things can
yeah, yeah, yeah.
concern you.
Is this Dunkin' Donuts or this franchise here gonna be open 24/7 or limited hours?
I don't
No,
believe so,
no,
but
okay.
I'll have to
Yeah.
get back
Well,
on that.
tomorrow I'll find out the hours of operation, because they do have a limit on their
Okay.
site plan. I want to say like 5 to 11.
Yeah.
Or 5 to midnight, something like that. And there was concern about people being in there
Yeah.
early in the morning.
I know not every Dunkin' Donuts operates or is open the same extent of hours. Some of them are open 24, some are open like 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and some of his are different too, depending on the
Yeah.
towns they're in. Auburn, I think, was 4 to 10,
Yep.
something
Yeah.
like that. Um,
I mean, as you know, I just don't wanna leave any stone unturned, because people sometimes can get pretty,
Right.
you know,
And I'm sure that's a great point. Like tomorrow, I should find that out at the
Yeah.
conceptual planning board hearing, so
Yep.
I should get an idea at that
Yeah.
meeting as well of
Yep.
those
Yep.
type of issues and
Yep.
and comments.
Looks like it has a nice landscape,
yeah, I think it'll fit in very good.
extensive landscaping.
So we'll have the new gas station right on the corner, right? The
Yep.
Gas, and then we'll have,
Both be nice improvement to the area.
yep, very nice. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, I guess we can't officially give you our support, because
Yeah.
we don't have a meeting, but
You don't have a quorum. Now, Shai, would you recommend me maybe coming back to you for the next month's meeting to try to, because obviously I'd like to state that, you know, we came before you and whether you did or did not support it, just for their knowledge. I'm going before the board conceptually tomorrow night, but I'm guessing I wouldn't be going before the board formally for anything except for ZBA. ZBA, I'm intending to attempt to go before them in December.
In December, yeah, they meet before us in December, unfortunately.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, tomorrow night you could tell us that you did come to a scheduled Economic Development Council meeting. And I plan to be at that
Okay.
meeting tomorrow night as well.
And maybe just state that there wasn't a quorum. I
There
made the
wasn't a quorum.
presentation, but
Yep.
it didn't seem to be, should I just leave it at that, or say
Yeah, I
that
would
it seemed
just
to
say
be
that
well
there wasn't a
received at that time,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
have to maybe go back when there's a quorum or something to that
Yeah,
effect?
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Any other questions or anything I can help with?
I don't think so.
Well, Derek has my contact info from Tuesday's meeting, so if anything
Okay.
pops in your mind or anything comes up at all, feel free to give me a call, and,
I'll send you the hours of operation on Cumberland's. I didn't think about that the other day, but
Okay.
I'll send you that.
no, that'd be very helpful, thank you.
Again, apologize, we're not all here tonight, but
It happens. I understand we got the big storm everybody's kind of worried about. and-
The way the truck drivers are driving around with plows on their trucks, you'd think we're in for a blizzard.
It's interesting. It seems to me that, even though most people probably go through so many of these storms up here, the first one of the year
The
always
first
kind of
one,
just
oh,
throws
yeah.
everybody into a
Yep,
loop, but
yep, yep. So, thank you very much for your time.
thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
See you tomorrow night.
All right.
You don't mind next week when I have my meeting with the selectmen, we do, or not next week, the week after. It's all right to present this to the
Yeah.
board, to just show them.
Yeah, I think
Do
that's.
you have any extras of these?
I do. Would you like some?
Maybe, yeah, if I get probably 2 or 3 more, just to, we're a 5-man board, so if I can just show them.
Actually, if you,
No
can you
problem.
email, or do you?
I can give you copies and email it. I have a PDF of it.
Okay. I mean, just
That'd be-
so that the board has a,
Here, you can have, I've got one with my notes.
just give me 2 more. That'll be
Sure,
fine,
I got
yeah.
6 here.
No, no,
Just 2?
yeah, 2 will be fine.
Okay.
All right, that'll be great. Thank you. I'll show the board next week, and
I think Selectman Devanza too will have had that planning board meeting as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So he'll be able to
yeah.
speak to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So are we not gonna go through the rest of the agenda since this?
I guess, the business welcome and mentoring program I'll do by email. I do have 3 new businesses to send out for questionnaires. So I'll send those out through email, see who wants to take them. Same thing with the waterfront ordinance. Well, what I was hoping tonight is to get some guidance from EDC after the union leader article on how,
I missed that article. I don't know how I missed it, but
yeah, how we should respond, because I know Andrew and I had been working on a potential solution to bring back to the selectmen. I haven't had a chance to talk to the police department, but is it for the EDC to suggest no parking restrictions whatsoever and get rid of the ordinance, which I don't think is realistic, or to do some
That's
type
gonna
of...
be a tough sell, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a tough sell, or do you do temporary parking passes for special events, or some other communities? Hopkinton has similar, where they have guest parking passes that they will give out to residents, and the residents, if they've got family or somebody, they can use that guest parking pass.
how much land does the town own across the street? Any idea?
I don't, but I can find that out.
I mean, we bring up the parking passes, if people, I mean, you wanna pass $20-25, I mean, and you're entitled to that,
Yep.
to that spot. I mean, it's a way to generate revenue for the town, see what happens, just a rough idea.
I'll have that information and we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's good.
Item number 4, I will again send this out by email since we don't have a quorum tonight, but before the next meeting, I'm going to ask members to be thinking about the comprehensive economic development strategy that Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission and Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission are working together. Right now, we're trying to figure out what our key focus areas are in the forms of public infrastructure. Because that's kind of what the plan highlights. It looks at the demographics, it looks at, what type of markets can be targeted for potential businesses, and what those roadblocks are for, because having this process in place opens you up to potential grants through the federal government if public infrastructure is, and this is kind of what the, where we could highlight whether it's a intersection somewhere, whether it's improvements to the rail trail, whether it's something sewer, water. So if we can have a brainstorming session in December about what we want to highlight, so I can bring that back to the SEDS committee, because their next meeting is in December, on December 11th. And then the only other thing is the I-293, they had the public meeting on the 18th of September, where they got more feedback, and then the following week, the technical advisory committee kind of went through that feedback, but that's the most recent.
Do you know if they have another meeting scheduled?
They don't have another, if they have one, it's not on the website.
Okay.
No, I don't think there's one scheduled.
Okay.
But that's it. I mean, Tony, did you have anything from Southern New Hampshire Planning, or?
Not really, there is an effort at Southern New Hampshire Planning to move forward with the Certified Sites Program in Goffstown, Manchester, and Hooksett. So we're actually looking at some projects and landowners to participate, to kind of get a buy-in on the private sector, and then present to the planning board in order to move that forward in each of these towns.
So they picked just these 3 towns?
They picked just these 3 towns because obviously we've got some projects that could slide right in to that program.
Safe to say it'd be like a pilot program, more,
Yeah, in Goffstown, we'd probably be looking at a project that would fit the gold standard and also fit the bronze or silver standard, so that when the planners look at it, they can say, now I understand what you're talking about, as opposed to just looking at a proposed, we're not gonna, they're looking at not doing it as an ordinance, but doing it as an amendment to the subdivision regulations or site plan regulations. So it'd be easier to get through, also easier to control, because the planning board could change that as they obtain more experience with the program. So that could, I mean, that from an economic development perspective, that could be really, really helpful. I'm very pleased that Goffstown's part of that, because as I've been saying, it's very important, because we're at the tail end of the 93 project and everything else, that we are on the forefront of what goes on at Southern New Hampshire Planning. The other interesting thing from the Planning Commission is Salem and Wyndham are looking to leave Rockingham County Planning Commission and join Southern New Hampshire, specifically because of the 93 widening project. It really kind of provides that entire corridor all the way up
yeah.
from the state line. And but for where, we're kind of the terminus of that. So it's important that we keep our fingers into that whole program.
So I guess the louder our voice is heard, the better we are, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Steve is participating. We've got a couple other people that are participating in the Metro Center, which is now called
Access
Access New
Greater,
Hampshire?
Access Greater Manchester, or Access
I think Access New Hampshire.
Is it Access New Hampshire? Okay.
Because the idea is to rebrand Metro Center, because nobody really understands what that is. So the new logo, I think, is Access New Hampshire. We all have to practice that.
So the 3 towns again, Tony, were what, Goffstown?
On the certified sites,
Yeah.
Goffstown, Manchester, and Hooksett.
Okay.
And we hope to be bringing that to the planning board in the next couple of months, once we get a couple of property owners on board.
That could be something for the selectmen to weigh in on from a policy perspective as well.
Would it warrant a meeting with the Board of Selectmen? I mean, would you want to
Jack
set
Mudd
one
at
up,
the
or,
Planning Commission is putting his program together,
okay,
so let's
We'll
take a look at what that looks like.
we'll look forward to it, maybe?
Committing any of your time to it, at that level at least.
Good, thank you.
When do you think they plan on rolling this out?
Literally within the next 60 days.
Yep.
You've been contacted, I think, right?
I've only talked to Derek about it, and he's
Yeah.
gonna have David Priest contact.
And what we're both waiting for is Jack to come out with a template for the site plan regulations.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have that, we can kind of tool around, make sure it fits us. Work in a specific project or two, so that we can connect the dots between a physical project and the regulations, and then be in a position to go to the planning board and
And will this deal with strictly new construction, or a combination of new and existing?
new and existing, so
Okay.
it would allow, I mean, it would anticipate redevelopment
Okay.
as well.
Yep.
And the important thing is, you know, apart from the benefits it provides, in terms of, to some extent, streamlining the system, what it's really intended to do is get some level of pre-approval for sites so they can be marketed on an easier basis, but also on more of a regional and national basis. So certified sites is actually a national program, it would tie into the national marketing program. And that's really the nifty thing about it. And when people look at Access New Hampshire, it would be, our sites would be highlighted, which means people will look at not only those sites, but our infrastructure, our willingness to commit to economic development projects, all kinds of other things.
Good.
So it's not like going to a town and starting fresh.
That's about it. I mean, we think it's an exciting thing because, and then the EDC kind of highlighted the whole corridor from the Bedford line all the way on 114 down into the commercial industrial flex as, so.
I think it's a great thing. I can't wait for it, really.
Anybody else have anything else?
That's it.
Well, let me mention this, because I've talked to Jim McClellan at McClellan Automation, which is the old Bedford computer site across from Benchmark's old, or St. A's old Benchmark site. And the Goffstown Industrial Corporation has worked with both of those sides of the street to come up with at least a conceptual plan. Jim is actually looking for a 20,000 square foot expansion to his existing building, so that his biggest concern is how quickly can I get something like that approved? So I don't think he's got anything more than a concept at this point, but you guys may be seeing that. I don't represent Jim, but I just know that because I talked to him about certified sites.
That's good.
What's tough about Jim's site is access is through Bedford,
Right.
through a
That's-
residential neighborhood.
Yep.
That's why getting him into at least the lowest level of certified sites is important, because if we get some approvals for all of that vacant land he has, it will leverage our ability to get the intersection approved that has been conceptualized, which would connect his property and the St. A's property across 114. That concept was pitched by the town for this past 10-year plan, and it has in fact been listed for 2035, I think, or
That-
45. So we're way outside of the 10-year plan, but if we can kind of inch forward in that regard, and if he ever gets an end user, we'll be able to move that more quickly into an approval.
This is a question I'll ask, and I don't even know where to go with it or who to try to get an answer from, but with this expansion that he's thinking of in his building and with all this new stuff coming on, is it possibly time that we ask somebody from the state to get us an on and off out of the highway, or right off the highway, access off the highway? Is that something that would be possible, instead of going all the way down to New Boston Road and coming up that way, where his facility is located,
Yeah,
make a,
That's the problem, though.
that's the intersection that I'm talking about.
Limited
Okay.
access.
And the problem with it is the cost of constructing that road because of the ledge issues is gonna be pretty significant. And his building alone, when it's supported, we're talking about a $750,000 intersection. So, that's why on the conceptual plan for that site, he would add, what, a half a dozen buildings. A couple of distribution or manufacturing
Yeah.
buildings and a couple of, a few office type buildings.
on the Goffstown side of that, or?
All in Goffstown.
All in
All
Goffstown.
of his properties in Goffstown,
Okay.
that's the interesting thing.
Yep.
And I'm sure Bedford would like to close off his access to the residential side, especially as he brings trucks in. The interesting thing he says is this is all based upon a huge customer deal, and the customer is talking about moving up here closer to him.
That's good.
That works.
Yep.
And that will be I mean, perfect site if you could build a suit,
Yeah.
essentially right next to his facility.
Bring in industrial stuff, there goes the tax base. Gotta like that,
But he needs access.
yeah,
Access.
yeah. I mean, grants, you know, available state money, I mean, I'm sure we'd all have to do our homework on it, you know, try to get.
Well, that's where I think Tony's really pushing for the certified sites, and I agree with him. If you get the certified sites and you can get a conceptual approved by the planning board of your lowest bronze standard, and then you go out and market the full 25 acres
Yep,
nationally,
yeah,
Doesn't he have a concept for that site?
We do have a concept for it. The
It's-
industrial corporation paid for all that, and
And
we're
it-
willing to pay for more to move him into that program. But we really, you know, real engineering needs to be done to some extent, at least with respect to the intersection and the road access.
Doesn't he have a concept now that brings the road up by the junkyard?
There are no junkyards in town.
I'm sorry.
There's an auto recycling center. There is there is access that way, but it would go all through wetlands,
Oh,
and it would literally run the distance from St. A's Drive, you know, all the way down, and that's close to half a mile. So it's a terrible way to get in there.
right, with no development
Yeah.
along that road.
Right, and it doesn't help the St. A's on the other side, which is really the key to this. I mean, that,
Mhm.
if you can do both sites, I mean,
yep.
it's real commercial development in a limited access highway.
Yeah.
So it's really.
So what drives getting the federal government to release that limited access?
The prior DOT commissioner agreed that he would go to, because this is a federally funded limited
Mhm.
access highway, we need federal DOT approval to cut access into it. He said he would do that and get our approval if we were on the 10-year plan. And that's why we made that pitch. And that's, I mean, there are so many other priorities for the 10-year plan, that's why this was kind of put over to the side. But the planning commission, which is also the Metropolitan Planning Commission, which starts the 10-year plan process, we're assured there that it will move forward into the 10-year plan as soon as we have someone to pay for it. So that's why getting him into certified sites makes it a more realistic kind of thing to push into that.
So you can't get them can't get it on the 10-year plan because it can't be funded.
Can't be funded, and the state doesn't wanna look at a project that doesn't have funding. So
Mhm.
the reality is, the state's not gonna pay a dime to have that intersection built, a private development.
And that's what pushes them out of the 10-year plan.
Yeah, right,
Okay,
right.
understood.
Kind of raise a different issue, again, once you get me talking. The planning commission has also made another application for, EPA Brownsfield's remediation money. And on behalf of the industrial corporation, I sent in a letter supporting that application going to EPA, and committed the industrial corporation to provide loans or grants up to $25,000 for use in Goffstown. So that if they get grant money, we've got an ability to get some of that money into Goffstown, because we're willing to provide some level of matching funding. I really have no idea how much money they're applying for, whether we have a current use for it, but that money, their assessment money was previously used at both St. A's and at the McClellan Automation, and I think maybe some other places as well. So, again, if the money's there, we might as well use it,
Yep,
and it's important we all know that the money's potentially out there.
That money is for remediation?
It's remediation money, which is really a huge, huge thing. Because assessments tend to be almost affordable to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really have remediation issues, to, you know, to have at least some seed money to get something started is potentially critical.
And McClellan is a brownfield site?
Technically it is, because of,
It's a butter?
it's adjacent to that, auto recycling place. And they have previously utilized portions of this property. There's
I see.
MBTE issues and other issues out there. So we used that money, previous Brownsfield's money, to do a new assessment. And that confirms, is it a serious issue out there? Not at all. But it's enough to at least get us into the grant program, which I think is important because you just get a higher level of visibility then.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done plenty of developments, I'm sure you have as well, oversights that have serious issues, and this one does not have a serious issue. St. A's also, has a phase 1 or phase 2 report that shows some remediation is necessary.
It's mostly just because they're adjacency to that auto
On the St.
recycling?
A's side, it's because of the Benchmark facility was used as a manufacturing facility at one
Oh.
point. After the catering operation left, it was manufacturing. And also there's an old railroad track, I think, that goes through there that has, railroad fill.
Coal slag or something, yeah.
So it's really, again, it's not a serious issue, but it's something that can tie us into that kind of program.
See, I thought that old railroad that was on the other side of 114. I know the bed you're talking about.
I have no idea where the bed is.
Guess it all comes down, they need an end user over there.
Don't we all?
Don't we all?
That's pretty much it.
That's it for me.
All right.
Tony, that's it?
That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Got a quorum here for December and
Do you know what the date of the December meeting will be?
December 7th, I believe. First Wednesday. I'm sorry, December 5th.
December 5th. I will be unavailable that night. That's the night we're having our Goffstown Fire Department, our annual banquet, Christmas banquet. So I'll be unavailable that night.
Okay, well,
If we make it,
maybe if Selectman Devanza is available, since he's on the planning board,
Yeah.
and he'll see a lot of the issues, if he can attend, that'd be great.
I'll make mention to him. Thank you.